something that I have talked about a lot on this program, the threat to our democracy, and January 6th. I know people that were there that day that I have interviewed, and I've actually interviewed people, Pam Hemphill is one of them, who went to jail for several months. But I had the opportunity to watch this great documentary film called Fight Like Hell, and I actually watched it yesterday, The Untold Story. And it gives you the details in depth in the days and weeks before January 6th, and of course, what took place on that fateful day. And we know that Donald Trump has already said that he wants to pardon all those that were prosecuted on January 6th. It's crazy. So we're happy to have the director of that film, Fight Like Hell, John Long, joining us right now. John, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. What made you decide to make this film? What was your reasoning behind wanting to dive really deep into this, and what caused January 6th to happen? What made you decide to do this?
Well, I sent crews down to DC to film during the week of January 6th, not intending to make a film, but just to capture a cultural moment like a lot of journalists would do. The people that I had hired are professional cameramen, and we got amazing footage, and we did not expect what happened to happen. So we then again went back during the inauguration and filmed for another week. And then about a year after that, we started looking at it and going, well, what are you going to do with this footage? And we wanted to tell a story about what happened, how that day came about. And we thought that the best way to do that would be to create an observational type of film, rather than go and interview a bunch of experts and pundits and people telling you their opinions about what happened, because we have this raw, visceral footage that I don't think anyone else got this type of footage that we got. Mm-hmm. So we started piecing it together. I was working with another journalist, Ford Fisher, who had been covering the Stop the Steal movement right from the beginning. So from the first Stop the Steal event on November 5th. And then he was covering these events all across the nation. And we wanted to show what happened on the ground. So what people were hearing and seeing, going to these rallies, the events, and showing it, piecing it all together from the perspective of someone who's on the ground, as opposed to someone who's behind the scenes listening to lawyers talking or whatever. Right. And we just wanted to show what happened in a contextual way and observational way, not from coming from one side or another, and not to say it's not like a both sides thing. It's just like we wanted to show what happened from a purely journalistic way,
right?
Just show the truth of what happened.
Right, and you're right, John. There's a lot of footage in here that I don't think anyone's ever seen before, and it was mesmerizing. What I noticed, a lot of things I noticed from this great film, but was how angry people were, the anger that the way they were talking, and how upset they were, and in following the leader and believing untruths. Were you surprised in this footage of just how angry and ill-informed so many people seem to be?
Well, definitely they're angry. I mean, they are pretty much all there because they believed the election was stolen. They believed that they were there to try to protect democracy. And there was a lot of different types of people there. It's not just like I think you make a mistake when you try to group them all into one category and say they're all insurrectionists. A lot of those people were there to just peacefully protest. So I think that's important to say. There's also people who were smashing police officers over the head with flagpoles. So two things can be true at the same time, but they were very angry. They thought the election was stolen because for the 3 months since election day, since November 5th up until January 6th, 2 months, they were told the election was stolen.
So you're right. Hundreds of thousands of people were there that day, and there were maybe a few thousand people that committed crimes. So you're 150% correct on that, but that doesn't change the fact, as you pointed out, that almost all of those people actually thought that the election was stolen, which is mesmerizing. I'm wondering what goes through your head, John. You did such a great job with this film. What goes through your head when you hear somebody like Donald Trump say that he wants to pardon all these people? He's put a blatant statement. He hasn't said, well, we're not going to pardon the people that attacked police officers physically. He's made a blatant statement that he wants to pardon everybody. What goes through your mind when you hear him say that?
I think the idea of pardoning everyone, to me, does not make sense. I mean, I can't speak to every single person that's been charged. There's been somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 people have been charged. Some people could have got caught up in the moment and done something that they would have otherwise never considered doing. Others could have gone there to commit violence. So putting them all in one basket is like putting all the people that were in DC into one basket, which is a mistake. So I think it really does make sense to look at the individual cases and go, I mean, how are you going to, personally, I don't know how you can excuse someone for beating on a police officer.
Right.
Maybe you can excuse someone who found themselves walking down the hallway of the Capitol and walked back out again. I don't know. It's like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the Department of Justice, but everybody acted, in different ways there. So I think you really need to take a close look at what those people were doing. And like they said on January 7th, like go back to January 7th and listen to what all the Republicans were saying. Well, what everybody was saying is we can't stand for this. We can't stand for people beating on police officers.
If you're just joining us, he is the director of Fight Like Hell, The Untold Truth. John Long joining us on the show. I highly recommend it. I watched it yesterday. I thought it was really well done. It's interesting, John, because when I speak to a typical MAGA Republican and I ask them, I've asked Larry Elder this question and many others, I say, if Donald Trump didn't say months before January 6th that the election was stolen and that it was rigged and Joe Biden cheated and the Democrats cheated, does January 6th happen? And they won't answer that question. I'll ask you the question because I think you will. If he's not lying, that stuff doesn't happen, does it?
Well, he said before, like you said, before the election happened, he said, the only way we can lose this election is if the election is rigged, which is also what was said in the election that just happened.
Right.
And there was a big lot of momentum and planning going for the Stop the Steal movement had the election gone the other way this time as well. So, that was put out there. So people believed that. And then when he lost the election, he claimed that he won. And then for the next couple of months, there was a huge planning and momentum around informing people of that narrative that the election was stolen. I mean, as you know, there was over 60 court cases. And so this was what people were talking about all the time. So, the hardcore supporters that are listening to, certain media, that's what they're going to believe. And they believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. What do you think, if anything, the left-wing media and the right-wing media, we'll just say the media in general, got wrong about January 6th that you were able to capture and get right in this film?
Well, for one thing, most stories that are told are told from one side or another. So you can, like if someone's saying that, even someone who says that everybody there was an insurrectionist, well, you're not going to have any Trump supporters watch that film because most of the people there were peaceful. So don't do that. Like, I think what they missed is showing what happened, which is something that we just tried to do, is show things in context. For example, the Ashley Babbitt shooting. Just a week or two ago, Donald Trump said that police officer should be charged with murder. Other people have different opinions. And I think, to understand what happened, like you could go through a whole court case to establish that. But if you look at that footage, like we have a shot that's over 2 minutes long. So these people are walking towards the speaker's chamber, and there's some doors there that are closed with windows. You see the Trump supporters walk towards those doors. There's a few police officers guarding those doors and a few people on the other side. And then you watch this thing unfold over 2 or 3 minutes. That is almost more powerful than a whole court case, because you see the nuance of everybody in that scene, what they're doing, what's happening, the windows getting smashed, the police officer holding his gun, pointing at the window before it smashed, someone screaming, "There's a gun, there's a gun." And then the window breaks, Ashley walks through, and the police officer shoots. So you could have 10 people look at that, and maybe 5 people will say, I thought this is what I saw, and the other 5 will say, this is what I saw. But I think that context, it allows you to establish your own opinion about what you saw. Like, did that police officer do the right thing? You tell me. It's not, well, as the filmmaker, I'm not going to tell you. It's not my job.
Sure, understood. As an opinionated talk show host, based on that exact video that you are talking about, they're screaming out, hang Mike Pence. They're breaking windows. They are literally 15 to 20 feet away from politicians. As you accurately pointed out in the video, guy holds up his gun. You hear people say he's got a gun, and that doesn't deter Ashley Babbitt. To any human being that doesn't want to be shot, when you're hearing that somebody in law enforcement is pointing a gun at you, you probably should stop what you're doing. It didn't stop Ashley Babbitt. She was shot, and I believe ultimately it's a sad story. She's a woman that served her country, but like so many others that were the insurrectionists that day, she was brainwashed. And she believed every word that Donald Trump says. And there's still people, as you know, John, out there today that still believe every word that he says. And because of that, and she did some very stupid things that day. And in that moment, probably the dumbest of them all, when a law enforcement official is pointing a gun at you, you probably shouldn't be trying to get through a window and getting at politicians. It cost her life. That's my opinion, John. And you're right that the video is the evidence for it. And no, I don't believe that officer did anything wrong.
And the same thing is like you need to have empathy for the officer. You need to have empathy for Ashley Babbitt.
Sure.
The police officers that were holding back, even the people who were screaming, kill Mike Pence, or we're going in there to kill Nancy Pelosi. Like, they're there saying those things for a reason too. Like, instead of just, I think it's what this film does is it allows some pathways for empathy to understand, why are these people there? Why are they so angry? And ask those questions. It's not there to tell you what to think, but it might get you asking the right questions.
That's what I love. That's my favorite part about this film, is what you just talked about, is that you show a lot of footage that I've never seen before, asking questions, people that are speaking that were there that day, but it's not something biased where it's to one side of the aisle or not. You're just showing video, you're showing footage. I'm wondering, though, what do you think about somebody like a Tucker Carlson who nitpicks and shows only footage of officers letting people in certain areas, people calling it a tourist visit, and cherry picking, I guess is the word that I was looking for. What do you make of somebody like a Tucker Carlson that I believe does the opposite of what you guys have done in this film?
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with media. It's cherry, like you say, it's cherry picking. It's not showing what happened in context. Like, if you want to do a story about January 6th and you decide that you're going to show someone walking peacefully down the hallway inside the Capitol, which there was lots of people walking down hallways, even some with police officers, and then you have a show for half an hour and you talk about that shot, what you are is disrespecting your audience. And you're disrespecting, well, you're not even a journalist at that point, because a journalist is supposed to just tell you the facts. It's not about their opinion or trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And that's exactly what a lot of these people in the media do. All they do is manipulate. So I agree with you 150%. Well, John, you guys did a great job with this film, Fight Like Hell. It's really fantastic. Can you give out the information for people that want to see it, that haven't been able to yet? Where do they go? What do they do? How do they find it?
Yeah, so we put it up on YouTube for free. We didn't get it finished till just before the election. It's a slog making a independent film and trying to get something done. So thankfully we got it done before the election, and we put it on YouTube. So you can go to fightlikehellmovie.com or fightlikehellmovie.org, and that'll give you a link to watch the film.
Great job, John. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I'm thankful for what you guys did. It really is fantastic, and I recommend anybody please check it out. It's really good. I watched it yesterday. John Long, appreciate the time, my friend. Congratulations on the film, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.